Hi everyone, tonight I'm going to be talking about Disney's 30-second animated film and their most successful hand-drawn animated film of all time, The Lion King. So, this movie is very popular when it comes to Disney, obviously, and we're going to get into all the reasons why. Starting with the storyline, of course we have our similarities to Hamlet, as everybody has pointed out, as well as Kimba the White Lion, which I haven't actually seen, so I'm going to leave that elephant out of the room. So, anyway, back to The Lion King. Besides its similarities to Hamlet, we have a lot of great things with this story now. It was one of the few Disney movies not to be based specifically off of a book of any kind. And so, Simba is a young lion who wants to be king like his father, but when the time comes after his evil uncle Scar throws his father to his death and blames Simba for it, Simba has to run away and then learn to confront his past and learn from it, as you all know, because you've obviously seen this movie at least a dozen times if you're an animation fan, I would say. So, this movie does have a typical movie idea like the avenging the father, but at the same time there's some great messages in it. The first is the circle of life, which is captured beautifully in the opening number, and then we go on to finding what it truly means to be part of the circle of life, and then we come across the balance of nature that's shown a lot in the movie, of predator and prey. There's a theme of respect there, even when the animals are eating each other, as Mufasa says to respect all creatures, from the crawling ant to the leaping antelope, which is a really great message for kids and adults alike. And then there's the other message of learning from the past and your mistakes and putting it behind you so you can move on with your life. It's not that Hakuna Matata is a bad message. No, the idea of no worries and not sweating the small stuff is important. It's just how you go about it. You need to know when to say Hakuna Matata and when to confront your past and learn from it. So, both pieces of advice really are sound if you know how to balance them, even though Rafiki's is a little better than Timon and Pumbaa's, but I digress. And some people do say that there is a problem with that message in the movie because Scar is the one responsible for Mufasa's death instead of Simba. So that could be a broken Aesop in some people's eyes, but not to me, really. Now, other great things in this story are that it is pretty mature and has a lot of different types of conflict. Simba goes through more internal conflicts than other Disney characters from the time. He is part of his own problem and needs to overcome various traits which make for a more relatable character than other Disney heroes from earlier. And there's a lot of ideas here that are really dark and tragic, like losing a loved one, being blamed for their death, feeling it's your fault. And, of course, the sadness here of Mufasa's death is probably some of the best handled in any Disney movie. This movie still makes me cry even after seeing sadder ones and seeing this movie a lot. So there's a lot to be said there. And the father-son dynamic is great. So the storyline, even if it has some minor problems with the message, still is among Disney's strongest. Now on to the animation. The animals all look gorgeous, which is to be expected, and interestingly enough, sometimes animals will be brought into the studio to study them closer, which is really lovely, and it really shows the dedication of Disney. And I love how the backgrounds all have a certain feel to them, like the dreariness and danger of the elephant graveyard, the majesty of the Pride Lands, the joy of Timon and Pumbaa's, and particularly with the Pride Lands, it can tend to look differently depending on the scene. When Mufasa's king all looks as it should, colorful and life in it, but when Scar becomes king, then it loses all life to it, becomes dark and dead, which is a beautiful choice and really creative. So, of course, it's a Disney movie. I could talk about the animation all day. It's gorgeous, some of their best. Definitely worth checking out. Now, on to the characters. Simba is a great protagonist. Like I said before, he has internal conflicts of needing to deal with his past and wondering whether he is right for a king or whether he should go back, and a lot of conflicts there, as well as Scar. So that makes it more easy to relate to him than other Disney characters that have mainly encountered a villain in their movie. Nala is a strong female lead for the movie, and she does her best to try to convince Simba to return, and she's dutiful and definitely is very devoted to her Pride Lands and her friends. Mufasa is one of the best Disney fathers. His death is really tragic, but what really makes is that he is a great dad in every way. He's protective, but also playful. He's serious and wise, but he also has a fun side, making him well-rounded and the kind of father that could both teach you something and would be willing to play with you as well. And his dynamic with Simba is just so sweet, and that's what makes Mufasa's death probably the saddest in any Disney movie. On to Timon and Pumbaa. They're just hilarious. Some of Disney's best comic relief, and while their initial ideology might not be the best, they do have their hearts in the right places, and they do learn to be a little more responsible, and when push comes to shove, they'll gladly help Simba in any way they can. Zazu is another character I like. I was really compared to him a lot because I can be worrisome and a little protective, but he still has a sense of humor, even if it's very dry. That's the brilliant part about this movie. Everybody has a sense of humor. Even the most serious characters can still have some pretty good lines, which is important because this is a more well-rounded Disney movie. Not one of the most comedic necessarily, but it does have a lot of funny moments. But it also has a lot of drama, so it fits well together and the characters really match that. Rafiki is a very wise character, and he has one of my favorite lines. It doesn't matter, it's in the past. Ah yes, the past can hurt, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. And his connection with Mufasa and then Simba is just so nice and heartwarming. How he paints a picture of Simba right away as soon as he's born, happily saying Simba, and his sheer joy when Simba's alive. He's a character that we don't really get to know until the end, other than a few times seeing him, but he is still one of the best characters in the movie, really. Now on to our villains. Scar is one of the more well-rounded Disney villains. He is one of the more ruthless ones, up with Frollo and Shan Yu, but he also has a lot of sass to him too. I'm surrounded by idiots. And he's willing to kill his own family for his goals. So, some people really like the Disney villains that are pure evil, like Frollo. Others like the ones like Hades and Ursula that have a bit of sass to them. Scar is a picture-perfect mixture of both, which is probably why he's one of the more popular Disney villains. And the hyenas definitely help him out with some comedic scenes, having him react to their stupidity, but they definitely are more dangerous than you might think. You don't want to turn your back on them, as Scar finds out around the end. So the characters make for another great Disney film. And now onto the songs. The Circle of Life is the perfect opening to any Disney movie. It's powerful, it's beautiful, it's strong, and has a great message about life and death to it. And that there's just so many experiences we can have that we'll never be able to have in one lifetime. Then there's other ones like I Just Can't Wait to Be King and Hakuna Matata that just make you want to get up and dance. And Hakuna Matata is probably the catchiest one of them, really. Once it gets in your head, you're not going to stop. And just because I mean Hakuna Matata, what a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata, ain't no passing craze. There's no worries for the rest of your day. It's our problem-free philosophy, Hakuna Matata. Yeah. And I Just Can't Wait to Be King is one that's really catchy, even if it's a little dark in hindsight, given Mufasa's death. But it's still so catchy and wonderful and makes you want to dance. Then there's Can You Feel the Love Tonight, one of Disney's greatest love songs, and so pretty, and it goes over all the characters' emotions so well. Timon and Pumbaa's worry of losing Simba as their friend, Simba's apprehension to tell Nala the truth, Nala's wondering why Simba doesn't want to be king. And then there's Be Prepared, the villain song, and one of Disney's best for it, I might add. It just has a sense of catchiness, but at the same time, danger that makes it very well rounded, and it's so powerful around the end, thanks to Jeremy Irons and then Jim Cummings' vocals on it. Yeah, interestingly enough, Jim Cummings, the voice of Winnie the Pooh currently, actually took over for Jeremy Irons during the song. After the line, "You won't get a sniff out of me," Cummings takes over for Irons, and that's just really interesting to hear how the voice Winnie the Pooh was able to get that voice just right and really take over the song. And it didn't even feel like a different person, so that's really amazing and impressive. So, The Lion King is one of Disney's most popular movies for a very good reason. It's well rounded with good drama and comedy, has some great messages to it, some really fun characters, beautiful songs, and gorgeous animation. I would tell you to check it out, but you already have, and it's probably one of your favorites. Instead of saying check it out, I'm going to say watch it now. And this movie will be getting a remake from the director of The Jungle Book in a few years. I think next year, maybe. I'm not sure. So you can give me your thoughts on that as well. And until then, see you all later.